Good morning, and welcome to Who Am I? Who am I? Where did I come from? What am I doing on this planet? How am I designed? How do I understand my design? How do I understand my mission? What would you call that? My life's path. What am I supposed to do? How did I get here? What am I doing here? How does it work? What is my technology? Okay, so I have been plopped down into this physical body, into this physical human form. How does it work? How does it work? What's my GPS, my guidance system? How does it help to tell me what direction my feet should walk? And I don't mean this in an excessively reverent manner either. We're all just trying to find our way. You know? Each and every one of us. From the most saintly to the most profane among us. We are all just trying to find our way. And our system comes with a guidance system. And how does it work? Who am I? Who am I? How? So, those are the questions. I'm going to switch gears here, and we're going to start talking about the answers. Who am I? We're going to talk about some of the things that are known about who am I and how it works. Now, I didn't think all of this up. Certainly, you're going to recognize echoes of all your favorite teachers. Hopefully, if I've done this right, I've added everything in such a way so that none of my stuff sounds original, and yet all of it is going to land in a way that it's never landed to you before, because it's a whole picture. It's an allness. Who am I? Well, there's so many ways you can answer that question, and there's so many directions we could come at this from. Who am I? Who am I as just an abstract, powerful creator, a vibrational powerful creator in a vibrational universe? Who am I? What's my guidance system? How is my system designed? Who designed it? That's a good question. I don't have the answer to that one, but I do have something to add to that question. I just don't know the answer. I don't know where our design actually came from, but we are designed. I believe we are designed. I'm going to submit to you the evidence. I do this every day. It's part of the presentation. There is a little circle that I make, and so if you've heard this presentation before, please forgive me if a lot of it sounds the same. The thing is, I'm riffing with it. I'm jumping into the pool and hitting every point. Every day I do it differently, but I'm going to hit the same point. So if you've heard this presentation before, forgive me if some of this is annoying or boring or irritating or familiar even, and you don't like it. Too bad, because this is the presentation. Who am I? From my smallness all the way to the allness. What am I? What am I at the quantum level? What am I at the biological level? At the morphogenetic field of the biology level? That's actually probably a better place to demark that position. Who am I as an individual? How does my individual global positioning system, if you will, GPS, my emotional guidance system, because it's my emotions that guide me. If you're just staring at things that you don't like, that horrify you, that frighten you, that anger you, and acting from those impulses of negative emotion, then you're not reading the system correctly. That's not actually how you should be utilizing your broader perspective, which is your emotional guidance system. Your negative emotions are telling you that the thoughts that you are taking are out of resonance with what your broader perspective knows. And so the steps that you're taking are ignoring your source energy impulses, and you're off on your own thing. No wonder the world isn't working out very well for you. No wonder your life is a chaotic mess. Because if you are operating from states of negative emotion and you continue to act in this physical world from those impulses, I promise you, you're having a rough ride. You're looking at outside conditions, claiming that that's the problem because those conditions are what you are looking at as your negative emotions are fired. And so, of course, those conditions are the problem. Those conditions, if only those conditions would change, then I could have positive emotion and then my impulses would be blessed. But that's not exactly how it works either, because you're looking at a really big field, and what in that field and in what manner you have chosen to view it that's what's determining your emotions. You're picking what you're looking at. Now, I'm going to pick a little bone with Abraham, but not really. Not really. I understand what she's saying, what she's looking at. She's actually just... I'm not correcting her because for what she's saying, I believe what Abraham, as in Abraham Hicks, as in Law of Attraction, 35 years worth of this work that she does. And this work that she does, it's really interesting. There's this game she plays. It's the hot seat game, where she clicks into her own little packet of knowing, this little thing where Esther and Abraham are united right there, and so she is clicked in with universal consciousness. She's using what Esther's words and stuff to convey it. But she's got her own little circle of information. She doesn't tell you that she, as infinite consciousness, can, design a space vehicle to lift us all off the surface, or whatever you might think that infinite intelligence. She is a combination of infinite intelligence and Abraham. And I'm not picking a bone with her at all, by the way. Which... all of my words sound like I am. She advises the way you focus, and she's correct about that. It's how you are focusing and what you are focusing on that is producing the emotion that you are feeling. If that emotion that you are feeling is negative, honestly, it's not an existential indictment upon, the existence itself. Is it good or is it bad? Should I be here or should I not? Is it worth it or not? It's nothing like that. Just assume that life is good. Life is good, and I don't care how bad it looks on the ground to you right now. I don't care if you are heading for the gas chambers. Oh, God. I don't even know. That's probably blasphemous, because what do I know about what that feels like? But I can imagine, in a general sense, there's been an awful lot of pain and suffering that has been existent upon this planet over the last few thousand years, many thousand years. I don't think it's an indictment on the value of life itself. That's all I'm saying, and forgive me if I just offended everybody by my callous... We're talking about big things. I need to be careful. So who am I? All right, let's jump into this. I have a few slides that are kind of visual aids. Who am I? That's the question. Who am I? So let's start with this. First of all, you are a vibrational being in a vibrational universe. And not only that, you are not a solid, separate object from all the objects around you. We've kind of been taught to see it that way and to think it that way, but that's not what we are. We are vibrational beings in a vibrational universe. And your emotions are... So look at this picture I've just put up. This means something to me, and I'm going to try to help it mean something to you. You have two minds. One of your minds is source energy mind. It's the one that knows everything. It's in touch with, literally, with all things. It is holographic. The source energy, the universe is holographic. So all of the information of all the universe is everywhere within the universe. And it uploads and updates all the time. Every plunk, plunk, plunk. Now. That's easier to say than plunk, 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 plunk. Every now. The universe is holographically uploading and downloading the allness to the smallness and the smallness up to the allness, and it's sharing all of its information across all the scales in this really cool way. As a matter of fact, that's what source energy is. It's everything interacting with everything all the time. You could say, usually I use the word interfering, and the reason I use the word interfering is because it invokes the vision of the interference pattern containing all the information. The way a hologram is made, you have, split a beam of light, a laser beam. Half of it goes and scans an object and then comes back and interferes with the first half that didn't, right? But within the interference pattern, the wholeness of the information gets scattered across the whole field. And that's how come you can clip out the tiniest little piece of that hologram and put a laser back through it, and all of the information of the object that was scanned is there in every part of it. It's not just the information of the stem is up here where the stem is. It's all everywhere, and it's in the interference pattern that it happens. Which is why I usually say source energy is everything interfering with everything all the time. But it's interacting, it's these plonks touching each other, all of these vibrational frequencies. And what's a frequency? It's a little ripple of vibration. That's all it is. It isn't a thing. There's no thing there. Our things, all the things around you aren't made of things. They're made of vibrations. That's all it is. So back to this picture, that big self, that big aperture on the left, think of that as your source energy mind. The one that's focusing on what is. Where all the atoms are. Where your blood is flowing, how the wind is blowing, where the sun is located at any given time. Source energy is just in touch with everything, with all that is, with the knowing of the allness. That's what your source energy mind knows. Now, you have a very specific and important role in this picture. Your little physical meat-based specific mind, you could think of it as the smaller aperture, the one that can focus in, that can dial into the specifics on the land, boots on the ground, eyes on the world. Really important. And through your eyes, you focus on the world around you. Now, that source mind that you are, that source is actually just this big vibration of the allness, of the knowing of everything, of who we are and where we've come from and what we're doing, and the surety of evolutionary expansion, the surety of goodness and light and love and forward and all of that. That's what your inner being, it just kind of knows everything. You're the one that's focusing on stuff. However, when you focus on stuff that your inner being isn't looking at, there's no light on it. So when, for instance, if you take a thought like you look back, and so you're capable of reviewing events that have happened, right? So you look backwards and you think about what happened, and then you take a thought that says something like, boy, I wish I had done that different. Oh my God, I wish I'd done that different. Well, that thought right there is nothing like what your inner being is thinking about, because your inner being is absolutely full of the knowing of what actually is all the time. It's so busy being what it is right now and feeling the future coming. It has no time to look back with regret. It's not looking there. And since it's not looking there, it's shedding no light there. When you look back and try to look there, it's all dark. It feels bad, feels terrible. As a matter of fact, those kind of feelings are like cattle prodding yourself in the solar plexus. It's you doing it. It's you doing it. And the way you did it is you chose a thought. You have absolute divine autonomy and free agency. You have that human mind that you are is capable of taking any thought. Source thoughts, not source thoughts. Your own volition or in tandem with the group. You can go exactly the way source is trying to guide you directly towards what the better and what you want, or you can go 180 degrees in the opposite direction. You can think thoughts of blessed, synchronistic, addition consciousness kind of allness truth that resonates with universal consciousness and all things. You can take thoughts like that, or you can take mean, slimy little individual thoughts that are meaningless and wrong. You can do anything. You are a miraculous creature. Most of the other creatures around you are pretty much locked into harmony with source. And that's a good thing. Boy, that's a good thing. That's a really, really good thing. We're the only ones out of step. And I'm not down on us. I'm not, as a matter of fact, the thesis of my whole presentation is how magnificent and wonderful we are. And how magnificent and wonderful this universe is that we walk in. And that if we would but understand better who we are, we could work within this system better, more efficiently, more blessedly, more harmoniously, more synergistically, more with better results. Better for who, you say? Well, better for you. We're talking about you following your direct path to your specific happily ever after, to your dreams come true. Who knows what will make you happy and what your dreams are? Your inner being, your source energy mind, this one on the left, this great big wide open aperture that is in touch with all things. Through the quantum field, by the way, through the Planck frequencies, the Planck vacuum oscillations, this superfluid that makes up the entire universe. It's the fabric of space-time. It's space-time, think of it as space-time is pixelated. And all of those pixels, each one of those is a Planck. And when they gather coherence, things happen. And what is this coherence we're talking about? It's spin. It's spin joining spin. It's the law of attraction, actually. You got to kind of open your mind, see this in a general sense, understand the Planck field, the quantum aspect of the fabric of space-time. Understand that, because the allness that we are is made of the smallness that the fabric is. Now, we have a hard time with this, the joining together in our minds, a conceptualization of how the quantum field interacts with the cosmological perspective. There is a quantum perspective, and then there's a cosmological perspective. The smallness and then the allness. And there's that middle ground that's kind of hard to navigate. That's the world we inhabit. You are a quantum system of boots on the ground, observing things in that way. And then you have this cosmological, I think of the inner being as being my cosmic vibrational anatomy. kind of. It's the rest of me. Most of the time we think of ourselves as being our bodies. That's who I am, right? I'm my body. That's why everybody cries so hard when somebody dies, because that's it, right? The way we've got it worked and the way our consciousness is set up as a people, this understanding that well, it's not understanding it. For one thing, we need to adjust our view of who we are, because we are not primarily our meat vehicle. That's just an aspect of ourselves. We are actually more source energy than we are our conventional selves, even though we think of it the other way around. We think that we are our conventional selves, and the rest of it is, I don't know, theoretical, if that, imaginary. You are source energy. You are the Planck field. You are this. So let's talk about that. You are, because this is kind of the binary. So you are the field, and the nature of the field is the nature of you. So what is the nature of the field? The nature of the field is the formless giving rise to the form. I don't know how else you say that. The quantum field is sort of like the formless, as in the Play-Doh that you're working with, or the plasma that the universe can morph into anything. And so what are the two aspects of this great being? It is formless, giving rise to form. That's what it is. That's what you are. Now, most of the time, human beings, and all of us, we identify with the form that we are. And that's actually where we get into trouble, because what is your identity? It's that which you follow the words I am with. I am blank. That's your identity. And actually, the way you think of what your identity is changes every time you think that in a different. So you are many, many things. You are your atoms. You are your thoughts. You are your history. You are your name, your job. I am a nurse. I am a girl. I am an American. I am actually not a nurse. I just made that one up because I didn't really want to just say just me. It's like whatever you think you are. That's the form you're taking. That isn't who you really are. Who you really are is that source energy Planck field that's giving rise to anything. What is this world we live in? How does reality come into being? How do thoughts turn to things? So many questions, and I got to watch it, how I direct this, because I can get into a place where it's like, now I'm sitting in a room where I've got all the answers and no direction on the questions anymore. That's how come at some point I'm going to invite other human beings into this space with me, and I want them to ask me questions about this. I want them to ask me to clarify what the hell it is I'm talking about. Because I think this is important. I believe that every form of suffering upon the face of this planet, it's sort of my version of the 5 kleshas. This is what is causing all of suffering. And we can clear it up. We can work on some of this in a matter-of-fact kind of way. Just a matter-of-fact kind of way. And yet we can also get to places where we can make our emotions just soar. You can link up with your greater self, and now when the thoughts that you think, if they are resonating with your inner being, as opposed to the ones, remember the one where we're looking backwards and regretting, that none of your power is there, and the reason none of your power is there is because your inner being is not looking that direction. So just don't look in those directions. I've kind of learned to quit looking back with regret and just build those momentums of today looking forward with faith and positivity and all of that, with an expectation that things are always working out for me and we are all in this together and things can be understood and I am good and you are too. I don't care how big an asshole you're being in this moment. That actually doesn't matter to the greater picture. So actually, I'm circling back. I remember now what this kind of imaginary bone I was going to pick with Abraham had to do with the difference between what you're focusing on in any given moment and how you are interpreting what the allness is, right? So she advises you not to look at things that are uncomfortable. Look for positive aspects. Count your blessings, kind of a spirit. Focus on the wanted. Yeah, you're going to get hit with lots of unwanted, but then pivot and out of that rubble or whatever, out of the cacophony, whatever it is that you're looking at, out of the not wanted, identify what you want in that picture and then learn how to focus there. Even if it's not in existence yet, learn to take that emotion of the wanted as opposed to just fixating on the vibration of that thing you don't like that you've got. That sort of a spirit. I totally understand what she's saying. But there's another thing. People, human beings all the time, are trying to add up the big picture and understand the greater field, the greater patterns of the world apart from where their physical body actually is. We live in a global environment now where human beings are interacting across the whole planet. We are a single morphogenetic field, and there is this big picture that we pretend to understand. Now, the truth of the situation on the ground is every piece of information that you come across existeth unto the allness. And so there's a difference between what you not being naive about what the situation is or can be or can devolve to, not being naive about that, and not focusing on the allness right there. There's a difference between those two things, because on the one hand, it's probably not helpful to just focus on things like the Holocaust, vivisection, murder and rape and bad pedophilia and, greed. And it's probably a good thing not to focus there. I got to be careful not to go 17 seconds over there, or I get stuck with another one of those. It's hard for me to find my way back out. What was I saying positive about this? It is a good thing not to focus upon the negativity unto this world. But it is not a good thing to not have a visceral understanding of the depth and breadth of what don't be naive about what humanity can devolve to. Don't take it not seriously. Don't take this understanding of who we are not seriously. It's very serious. It can get quite bad on the ground. It can get very mean, and the suffering can expand and exacerbate greatly in the field when large groups of us don't understand who we are and start acting out of our negative emotions. It can get really quite bad. Don't fool yourself about that. However, the way our equipment works, you can work with this. This is actually how it's supposed to be. So you are this picture that I got up here, there's kind of a reason why they are apertures of focus. The thing is the way I see it, you can look at evil, but you can't focus on it. And so you can see it out the corner of your eyes. You can see it in your peripheral vision, but it is really important that your focal, the center of the focus of your aperture of your mind, centers around good, not bad. It You focus on the good, you can see the bad, but you got to focus on the good. That's how it works. And when you're interpreting the allness, from my position, I advise addition consciousness. You got to add it all up. If you really want to understand the wholeness of the allness picture around you, you got to add everything up. You can't subtract things when you're making that summation. What am I even talking about? I'm talking about consciousness. There's this place. I have a place in my consciousness. I think of it as that place where everything goes. It's just the place where all the information is. And I don't judge it, and I don't necessarily focus on it particularly, not in that room, but there it all is. And when things happen that I don't understand, that I don't know how to place that, I don't know it doesn't matter. You just go, well, I don't know the meaning of that. I just can't tell you what I think about that. I'm just going to file it away in that room where everything goes. At some point, those things do start playing together, and they will start ordering themselves, and they'll start adding up amongst themselves until you get a coherent pattern where you go, oh, that's how it fits. I remember when I was young, sitting in church on Fast and Testimony Sundays and listening to these people who seemed so sincere. Man, and then they were saying wild shit. And then they were attributing the meaning of their stories to things that didn't really make a lot of sense to me at the time. They have come into better order for me now, and I better understand what these people were working with that was working for them, and how that fits into a bigger picture. Not with resistance or judgment, just where does that fit? How does that how does that mean? It's sort of like everyone is describing this cosmic elephant, and every person, it's like the old story of the old men, the blind men and the elephant, and they're all standing at different places on the elephant and touching different aspects of him and claiming that, oh, he's like a rope, and standing at the tail. No, he's like a snake. And that's the ones at the trunk. And no, it's like a sail, the one standing at the ear. No, he's like a wall. It's the one standing at his side. No, he's like a tree, the one standing at the legs. And the thing is none of them are wrong. They're just not adding everybody's thing together to get the greater picture. And if you are presumptuous enough to think that you are understanding or discussing, evaluating the wholeness, you better have all the information in there. You can't be subtracting it. If your picture of the wholeness needs to subtract some aspect of it for it to work out, for it to add up, then you might have a problem. Because you might start thinking, well, all I have to do is subtract this thing, and then all will be well. Well, you can't subtract any of it because it's divinely there. It's kind of, in a very, very rudimentary way, in a very abstract way, this is kind of what the Nazis ended up with. Their subtraction consciousness led them to this horrifying place where they're like, well, if we can just eliminate this entire race of people, then the world will be a fabulous place. Well, we saw how that worked out. I have theories about what that is all about too, because don't blame the Nazi. We are all in this together. We are one morphogenetic field, and what some of us are doing is creating energies in other parts of the field that cause certain emotions to be stirred, you could say. When parts of humanity creates systems of circulation and information and supply chain and all that sort of thing that doesn't support us all, that leaves some of us out and disenfranchises some of us, it creates anger in the field. It creates negative emotion. It creates Shiva energy. And it's a field phenomenon. It's just out there in the field. We created it because we did not see who we were, and our systems were not harmonious and flowing with the way source flows, with the way we built systems that didn't account for who we really are and how it really works. We thought that we would beat each other into improved morale, that sort of misunderstanding, and it creates in the field this negative energy. It's a polarity itself is what's created in the field. And that's actually what the enemy is. The enemy is not the Nazi. The enemy is not even the authoritarian dictator at the top of the ticket. Absolutely not. He is not the enemy. He is us. And we've got to understand who we are, or we're going to keep creating this phenomenon. And I mean who we are all the way down to the quantum field, all the way down to the source energy being that we really are, the continuum of energy and information connected to all things that we really are. We are the universe. I am the universe, and I iterate it from my position on the grid, and I need to get in and man my own center. What does that mean? I need to get into my equipment and line my source mind and my boots on the ground conventional meat mind. I got to line those two up. Because when my conventional self is poking around in dark places where my inner being shines no light, I get that I'm out of alignment, and now when I'm taking my impulses from the energies coming to me, they're all screwed up. That's how come people operating in negative emotion are chaotic. They are playing out chaotic storms of energy that we created in the field because we don't know who we are and we don't know how it works, and we don't understand that we truly are all in this together. We don't have to fight for lockstep and groupthink, and as a matter of fact, I'd suggest we don't. Lockstep and groupthink is the last thing we want. We want each and every one of us operating from our divine center, iterating this holographic wholeness from their particular and authentic center. Iterate it from your authentic place. Iterate your diversity through the wholeness that we all are. It's kind of that sort of vibe. I know it sounds a little woo-woo and new agey and stuff, but I'm not talking about this theoretically or hypothetically. I'm talking about this literally. This is who we are. We are a source energy mind, and then we are our specific conventional boots on the ground meat self. Those two need to be lined up. If you're operating from negative emotion, you are going into dark places, and you're not taking your broader perspective with you. You're not taking your soul with you. You're not taking all of us with you. You're just plowing into the darkness on your own and banging around chaotically. Well, how do we not do that? Pay attention to how you feel. Know that you shouldn't be directly battling conditions. The answer lies in alignment between you and you. Now, Abraham advises, in order to get this mastery of your positive self, meditation is a good way, because you got to figure out some way to loosen the grip of all that negative programming you got going on. You got probably an awful lot of thoughts telling you that you're not worthy, you're not adequate, you're just a dust in the wind, you're probably wrong, you gotta lots of negative thoughts. I actually don't have lots of negative thoughts so much anymore. I don't entertain them anymore. I try only to entertain the positive ones, but you got to still those negative ones. And most people have an awful lot of momentum going down those negative tracks. It's not the easiest thing to get those things stopped. You're faced all the time with things going down in physicality that you just don't care for. Oh my goodness. There's so many things going on right now that I don't like. Now, I don't go down into any specifics of any of them, and I try very hard to stay way, way up in the general negative. Because the more you specifics turns on the gas of momentum. The general puts on the brakes, kind of consciousness. If you, here, this is time for this one. Where's my cursor? These are your 4 general states of being. And your state of being, whatever state of being you are in, is the direction that you are flying your cosmic starship in this moment. And the specifics turn on the momentum. So the goal would then be specific positive, right? That would be the goal. But maybe right in this moment, you are looking at something very specific and very negative, and you don't like it at all. Maybe something happened, like somebody that you love very much has died. That would be a bad one. You're looking very specifically at that specific negative, and you don't like it, and you've got a dark train going on. Or maybe your somebody has left you for whatever reason. They aren't there. For whatever reason, whether they've left you or whether they've died, somebody that you wanted to be there is no longer there, and you are staring at where they used to be. That's a specific negative. And the more you do that, the more your emotions go down into a negative state. This is your emotional guidance system, all the way down from, so you go down to the bottom. That's very strong negative momentum on number 20. And as you rise, this is correspondent to a frequency change within you, by the way, because remember I told you you are a transmitter and a receiver. Well, the transmission that you are transmitting is being determined by 2 things. It's being determined by those 2 minds. Your inner being is a point of attraction and a focal point of whatever, and a transmission unto the universe on your behalf, actually, speaking to all the other cells of the universe. This is where I am, this is what I want, this is what I need. It's broadcasting that to the whole rest of the field. Now you, in your specific self, might be broadcasting something else. You might be, instead of being on that pure positive, this is what is, this is where I'm going, this is who I am, all is love, all is connected, all is worthy position that your inner being is coming from, you might be taking some completely different kinds of thoughts. And that is producing the sum total of the 2 of those together is what is producing your overall transmission unto the universe, and determining whether it is clear and coherent or whether it is chaotic. And you got to pay attention to how you feel, because if your thoughts that you are taking are giving you negative emotions, then those impulses that you're getting from source are now out of alignment, And if you start acting from that position, you are out of alignment, out of step with source energy, out of step with the harmonics of the pattern flow of this universe. And honestly, you're probably making a pretty rough ride for yourself. Lots of negative emotion, you're making messes as you act from that negative emotion, then you're blaming the conditions, you're, stuff like that's happening to you. You're having a hard time. So, what do you do about it? What do you do about it? Know who you are. Know that your rough ride is actually not being caused by conditions outside of you that you think that you have to change in order for you to then feel better about stuff. The conditions are actually being caused by you taking belligerently and persistently taking thoughts that are nowhere near where your inner being is. Please go to anywhere where your inner being is shining light. And there's an awful lot of places that your inner being is indeed shining light. Know who you are. You gotta know who you are. Line your two selves up. Know that you are doing it to yourself. That there is no end to the way conditions are going to disappoint you if you are looking at the world from that position. Especially right here and right now, because there's an awful lot of bad to look at. There's also an incredible amount of good to look at. There is also, when you're trying to see the very, 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 very biggest picture, as in have a sense of the movie that we have been living within, where we are in this snapshot in time, where we've come from, to get us a sense of where we're going. My goodness, when you look at it from that perspective, wow, it's good. Wow, it's good. But there's still a lot of the old forms that create suffering in place in the world all around us because we don't know who we are. That's what's causing it. And so that is the position that's going to fix it. Us knowing who we are. Us realizing how this works, how the quantum field works, how my emotional guidance system works, how source energy works, how my inner being works, how this vibrational setup works. It's going to lead us out of the wilderness, people, out of the wilderness in so many ways. It's going to lead us away from the way we struggle with each other, the way we push back and forth against each other, the way we are one morphogenetic field and there is no us and them. That's a big one. That's a big one. And in a practical manner, what the hell do you do with that when your neighbor is obviously causing so much trouble? Well, there are demons loose upon the land, people. We have loosed them. They are energies that we didn't understand. And there's only one way to fix this. We got to understand it. And then I'm not going to advise any specific behavior because this is how it works. Line up with your inner being, and then from that higher frequency, from that better feeling position, now take the impulses that you are getting to act and act. While you're in the throes of a negative emotion, try very hard to sit on your hands and not act. Now, you might be in the middle of a very active negative momentum, and I don't know how to help you from there. Some negative momentums, they have gotten to the point where those storms are playing out right now, and they're going to play out. And I don't know how to stop them. If I focus over there on them and feel bad, I will join them. That's how that works. So I will stand here where I am and observe them from where my broader perspective is looking at them from, seeing them with an understanding, a gentle understanding of, well, we caused that because we didn't know who we were. What's the solution? Know who you are. And then learn how to follow the guidance of your source, your inner being, your connection to this great, magnificent universe that we all. And I can't tell you what actions you should take. No one can tell you. No one can tell anyone what action they could take other than help each other get into alignment with their source and then do whatever feels good from there. And everyone is going to be iterating themselves from a really authentic and diverse, harmonic, beautiful place if we do that. But it's going to take some working. That's where we're heading. That is where we're heading. How long it takes us to get there, that depends on how quickly we catch on to what's happening around us, what this field is trying to do to organize us with one another and with all the rest of biology all around us. If we would learn how to take this direction from source, then we would all line up harmonically. I don't care what it looks like when we all line up. It's going to be colorful, it's going to be creative, it's going to be beautiful and harmonic. But I couldn't tell you what it's going to look like because, and who cares, as long as the spirit of it is a spirit of harmony and cooperation. Who cares what it looks like as long as the spirit is that? So that's the idea. Hold on to the spirit, not onto the image. You know, that is the spirit versus the image is basically your broader perspective source vibrational mind, as opposed to your image focused analytical meat self conventional mind. And don't make it a competition between those two minds. Line them up. Line them up. Give your analytical mind red meat to chew on that your source mind approves of, is interested in, is eager about. How do you do that? Well, pay attention to how you feel, because how you feel is your direct indication of how the thought you chose to think is resonating or not resonating with what your broader perspective knows about the situation. And there's something else. You're never going to change what your broader perspective thinks. What it's thinking, what it knows about, it just knows. It knows everything that's happening around you. It knows who you are. It knows where you've been, where you've come from, where you are, where you're going, where everybody else is. It knows where all of your cells in your body are, what they're doing, how they're moving. It's doing it through this Planck field. There's another reason how come I come into this space and do this talk, because there's a really important collective aspect to this. All the stuff that I have been talking about right now has been mostly focused towards Abraham's understanding. Abraham has been trying to give us this understanding of who we really are and the steps of creation in this vibrational universe, and your source energy mind and your individual mind, and how your source energy mind is your inner being, which is behind this emotional vibrational guidance system that you've got that is indicated by your emotions, right? That's the focus that they have had for 35 years, thereabouts, give or take. It's right around the 35-year mark that she's been playing her hot seat game. You know, she has this audience of people. She invites people up to the hot seat, and she can tell when she's in her Abraham mode. She can tell who is right on it and so eager and close to understanding, and those are the ones she pulls up into her chair because they play the best game. And then they ask her questions, and she gives them answers. And it's a game she plays, the hot seat game. She's been playing it for 35 years, and she's made an empire out of it. She's made millions and millions of dollars out of it. And then now, with the paradigm of the internet, she chops up those seminars into little 15-minute nuggets of wisdom little nuggets of information of how understanding how this works, and has put thousands of them out on the internet, and I'm sure she's just raking in the dough. I listen to Abraham all the time. I've been listening to her for about 4 years. It's about 4 years ago that I found her. Right? Just as the world was shutting down from COVID, that's when I found this piece of, it's like this little missing piece of information that I didn't understand. And when I put that into my room where everything goes, it made the motion happen. It was like, oh, that's how it's moving. That is the way. That's the way the momentum's moving. That's the way the energy's flowing. That throws the whole field into motion. Ah, I get it. I get it. It's a really important piece of the puzzle that she has given me. And I've been focusing that direction, but there's another piece of this that for humanity, it's going to mean even more. Although, honestly, all of human beings getting a grip on their freaking emotions is going to have tremendous positive effect on us. But there's going to be something that is going to help us get our grip on our emotions even more than that, because there's a reason how come our emotions are so out of alignment right now on planet Earth, and it has to do with the way that we extract energy. We're extracting it from the planet in the form of fossil fuels of all kinds, be they natural gas or tar sands or oil fields or whatever. We are extracting these fossil fuels, and we are burning them, and we are killing ourselves and the planet. And actually, the reason that we are doing that, and this all reflects back to this, we're doing it because we don't understand who we are. It's a direct reflection of our not understanding who we are, because we are source energy, and we could learn to plug our technologies directly into the source of all things, but instead we've plugged it into this dirty oil. We have allowed the momentum of that to go on for 100 years longer than it should have. But the reason that it did what it did is because the consciousness wasn't there. This whole thing implies us knowing that all is source energy, and so you are too. And the way it reflects on who you are, it points directly to things like consciousness and stuff that it's like big no-no in the physics laboratory to start talking about consciousness. But the new understandings of source energy has brought us to the mathematics of source energy, and I want to talk about that too, because when we shift the direction that humanity itself is going, as far as because we are a single being upon this planet. I am humanity, and you are too, and it matters to me that we are extracting energy from fossil fuels instead of from source energy like we ought to be doing, from the source of all things. There is a long history of these devices. Long history is in a little over 100 years. Different kinds of devices, energy-saving devices, energy-pulling devices that do not use fossil fuels, that pull in a steady-state way. They're called over-unity devices, and we are taught that, oh, that's impossible. That just goes against the laws of physics, so we just don't even need to look that way. Well, they've been fooling us for over 100 years, and we haven't been looking that way. But a very special man started looking on his own, and he had a quick mathematical, inquiring, kind of spiritual mind too, but very analytical. And he went off by himself, and he lived by himself, and he studied this stuff for himself, and he studied all kinds of things, the mathematics and the physics and the history and the ancient civilization and ancient wisdom and texts and where did we come from and that kind of stuff for many, many years. And he realized what he was looking at, and actually you can do the math that unifies the density at the Planck level and the cosmological density You just have to, it's scaling. And the math actually does work. And when you take a Planck and blow it up to the size of the universe, the mass and energy and uh, the all the numbers add up. And the mathematics has been done. And so here I'm going to show you. This wasn't his first paper. His first paper, I think, was published December 12th, 2012, and it was probably symbolically significant, and yet probably other people just thought, oh, another new AG, somebody with whatever. But the mathematics has been done, and the mathematics is the blueprint to the technologies. And we could go there. But right now we're stuck in a paradigm where the momentum of the powers and realities on the ground moving from the last 100 or so years, the robber barons are still in control. Those who own all the stuff are still in control because the people don't know who they are. Back in the late 1800s, when J.P. Morgan realized what Nikola Tesla was actually trying to do, to give free energy, free communications, free stuff to all human beings in his general understanding of this vibrational universe, as soon as he realized that's what was happening, he shut Tesla down, withdrew his financial backing, and probably helped to discredit him. I don't know the depth. I know generally that that's what happened. I don't know the details of it. You might. But that's why Tesla was discredited and died in relative obscurity, because he was trying to give away free stuff. But that's actually what we need. We need unlimited, clean, free energy at the point of desire. And it's actually possible. Excuse me. There's over 100 years of history of people coming up with these clever devices. Everything from automobiles that ran on water to devices that just run and create energy. They've all been shut down, deep sixed, sometimes along with their owners, with their inventors. Sometimes not. You don't actually have to murder the inventor if you can just discredit him and, snatch his device and make sure that it never sees the light of day. That's all that matters. Well, the cat's out of the bag. The fact is that it's an open secret now. There's a lot of open secrets out there. UFOs are another open secret, and the reason that they are an open secret is because the way they move implies things about what can be done that we have always been taught is impossible. So that's how that adds up in a general way. So I'm going to take you to, I have a few slides here. This is Nassim's latest paper. It was published back in September of 2023. There's a couple of other names that published with him, Cyprian and Olivier. You can read their names. And this kind of shows you, if you really wanted to look at the whole paper, this is I couldn't fit the title and the whole abstract in the same frame the way my computer was showing this. So I had to do it in 2 slides. Here's the whole abstract. If you want to freeze this and look at this, this is talking about the emergence, the title of the paper is The Emergence of Matter. No, what is the title? I'll tell you what the title is. The Origin of Mass and the Nature of Gravity. That's what the title of the paper is. Now, I have captured a couple of slides from this paper. This one, I love this one. This one is in the part of the paper where he's showing how the Planck field of every proton mathematically relates to all of the protons in the rest of the universe. This has to do with how the universe is holographic. And our understanding of that is going to lead us places. This one here is a slide showing how, as the oscillators, as they go from being Planck oscillators to being virtual particles, as they cross the event horizon from being just this roiling Dirac sea of Plancks to they come into coherence, they come into to be a proton, an atomic element of some sort, a proton, a bit of mass within this. As they do that, spin is baked into the cake. That's what this shows. And this is going to help humanity collectively understand how to conquer gravity, what it really is, what the forces, how that really connects to matter and energy and all that sort of thing. I liked this slide because it showed me that. This one I have labeled this one black hole diagram. This has to do with black hole physics, black hole energy. And the reason this is important is because it's all black holes. Spell that black hole with a W and you got it. They're little integer wholenesses, fractal expressions of the whole, fractal reflections of the whole pattern, because the universe is fractal and holographic. Anyway, so if you are so inclined to explore this further, and maybe you're disenfranchised with the conventional way of looking at things, go over and talk to these people at the Resonance Science Foundation and learn all that you can know about how this universe actually works and how our consciousnesses are how they relate to this quantum field too, because we are especially blessed and interesting beings. We are possessed of human consciousness. And what does that mean? Remember, the name of the show is Who Am I? And the whole point of the thing is to come to a better understanding of who we are and what is the nature of this reality that we are embedded in, and what is the best way to go about making our dreams come true and finding our happily ever after, both individually and collectively. We are dreaming this into place. The way we focus and the direction that we are looking as we focus, where we put our attention, how we focus, how we feel when we focus, all of it is telling you which direction you're going. Are you moving towards what you want, or are you in this moment swimming upstream are you moving in 180 degrees the opposite direction are you nightmaring this into place? Do you have evil at the center of your focal point? If you do, then you are moving towards what you do not want, and you are nightmaring into place. If you have good in the center of that focal point at the center of your center, if good is at the center of that, then you're moving in the right direction. You're taking your GPS guidance system correctly. Now, we're going to talk for a moment. Got to do this every day. Got to make it through all the slides. I know that means I'm covering the same ground over and over and over. But if you happen to listen to this multiple times, you will understand that there is there's a coherence to my story, to the way this adds up. It really does. So this is your basic human design. You have this neocortex layer of mind overlaying the rest of your mind. Now, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with a mammalian brain or a lizard brain. Lizards do great out there. Mammals, they're all over the place doing just fine with their little mammalian brain. They are taking impulses from source. Their source is, usually we can track it through hormones. It looks like physically you can see the hormones that are causing the mammal to attach to the baby, or, the lizard brain part of you attaching to your territoriality, or using the hormones that govern your sex drive and all that kind of stuff. From the outside, it looks like you can see the hormones of the focus of those lower minds. You can see that. Doesn't make it not valid. That is just a source directing the focus of the boots on the ground of the little mammals and the little lizards and stuff, and that's all well and fine. We have another layer of brain over the top of that called the neocortex, which is analytically equivalent to broader perspective thinking. And that's how come when we take thoughts with that mind that don't resonate with what our broader perspective, what our real broader perspective really knows to be true about us and all things, then we get a hit of negative emotion. And the answer is take a different thought. Take a different vantage point. Sit on your hands until you can ease that negative one away. Know that your negative mind is actually your chaotic mind, your out of alignment mind. There's reasons for it. You don't want to blame yourself for it. You don't want to beat yourself up about it. It's a very natural part, and you're still getting information on the field. Just think of it as like the opposite of what you really want kind of information. Sort of like a negative photograph. All of the information of the positive photograph is there in the negative, but it's on the opposite side of it. It's like the other end of the stick. So if you're in a state of negative emotion, you're getting great information. It's just the opposite of what you think it is. 180 degrees, the other direction. So take a tick back. Take care of yourself. Raise your own vibrational level. Withdraw your sight from that specific negative that you're staring at. Pull back into the general negative. Life sucks. Life sucks. Then maybe you could move to a general positive. Like, well, life doesn't always suck. I have good times. Other people have good times. I can see that. It's possible to have this work out. That's a general positive. Now find a specific positive and move your attention and the focus and your direction now into that positive and try to hold it. Try to build a momentum there. It's going to take some practice. Abraham's got lots of processes, and they generally, meditation is at the bottom of that. Why would meditation be at the bottom of this? Because as you go into the center of the center of the center of your center, you're lining up with you're clicking in with all the greater and greater morphogenetic fields around you. As you go inward, you're clicking into bigger and bigger frames outward. The inner and the outer are reflections of one another, and you are a cosmic being of tremendous beauty and significance. All of us are. All of us are. We are a we. Whenever I see people being magnificent, and there's so many places you can see it, everywhere from American Ninja Warrior, or America's Got Talent, or there's all kinds of places where human exceptionalism is just breathtaking and spectacular all over the internet sensations, man, young people and musical instruments. There's some wild, crazy, beautiful creations going on out there. And every time you look at one of those, don't think in competition and reflect it back on yourself and go, oh my God, I've done nothing with my life. Look at what this person has done by the age of 10, and here I am 60. What the hell have I done? Don't take it that way. Don't ever take it that way. We are the allness. You are the whole thing. So when you look at some human being spectacular, look at them and go, oh my God, we are beautiful. Look at us. We're so beautiful. We are so beautiful. I am so beautiful. I am we. We are so beautiful. Remember, this whole show is called Who Am I? Who Am I? And it all comes back to how you fill in the blank after you say the words I am. How do you fill that in? I am. Well, so let me finish this thought because I got to get through these slides. So I have established that the neocortex is a very interesting aspect of the human being machine, and how it is kind of your broader perspective. It separates us from the other mammals. It actually is both our curse and our blessing because it allows us absolute free agency. It allows us to ignore source entirely and just do our own damn thing, follow our negative emotions down whatever rat hole trail they lead. We can do that. We do that so very well. That's in Abraham's vernacular. That would kind of be step one. Banging around in contrast, getting a big old load of what you don't want because you're going in the opposite direction. You're not taking your internal guidance system seriously. You're not paying attention to how you feel. Instead, you're focusing on conditions, thinking that you have to change the conditions in order to allow your feelings to change about them. That's what you're doing wrong. You're doing all of that. It's because you're neocortex, right? It's both our curse and our blessing. So this is this part of the story. I'm going to tell you where our neocortex comes from. It comes from human chromosome number 2, or 76% of the volume of this comes from human chromosome number 2. And human chromosome number 2 turns out to be a fusion of 2 other chromosomes. Now this is where the article is published. It's in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences. It's a scientific journal. It's where the scientists from the different disciplines publish their work to each other. They kind of have to publish it to each other because it's so specific to their field that they're the only ones that speak the language that truly understand what they're saying. But you publish it to your peers and they understand the language and they can look it over and say, I agree with this, or I object to this. And if they objected, then they would probably publish something different, and maybe this would be, I don't know what would happen if people disagreed with this. But this is what was published back in 1991 on October 15th in that journal. I had to read all of the titles of all, because I couldn't find a table of contents to locate this, but it's 40 articles in. If you want to go look at this, the whole article, it's like 4 or 5 pages long, the whole thing that describes this fusion. Here I do have the full abstract though. I couldn't get it onto it wouldn't fit, so I had to do 2 slides. Here we go, the full abstract. So what they're saying here in this is we've studied this human chromosome number 2, and in looking at all the sequences of everything and how all of this stuff lines up, this is what we conclude. We conclude that it's the relic of an ancient telomere to telomere fusion and marks the point at which 2 ancestral ape chromosomes fused to give rise to human chromosome number 2. Just let that sink in for a minute. That's very interesting. So this is what made 76% of the neocortex volume. And whether you think somebody did this to us, or whether you think that these 2 ape chromosomes just fell on each other, fused telomere to telomere, and then magically redundancies on both sides of this fusion then just kind of fall away, and then magically and accidentally what's created is the human being. If you can believe that, God bless. But I can't believe that. I think that we were genetically modified. And you might think that too. It's very interesting that this is what created our a great deal of our humanness came from this fusion. Now, I know that Greg Braden has talked about chromosome number 7 being responsible for something else too. I ought to go study that so that because this may not have been the only thing that happened to us. But this turned us from a naturally evolving through natural Darwinian evolutionary processes, although I don't believe they're random. I think evolutionary processes are driven by the desire of the being who is evolving. They are asking, they are linking up with the universe and asking for their desire, and in their faith and trust and expectation, the universe grants incrementally over and over more, better, desire like that. And that's what drives evolution. It is desire that's driving evolution from the inside, from this point of consciousness, this point of universal consciousness. And there's a reason why they call it universal consciousness. It's called universal consciousness because we are all there. We all of us are there. And you have an aspect that's over there in universal consciousness, and you, in your specific human mind, you can either allow that or disallow that. If you don't believe it, then it's hard to get over there. If you've been taught lots of superstitious nonsense, and then because you are a spiritual person, you find yourself in a frequency of universal consciousness, but you put it in a frame of all this superstitious nonsense, when you find yourself in universal consciousness, you might imagine that you're the only one there, and that you have been decreed by God to lead mankind out of, whatever. And depending on what your philosophy is about it, you might be stockpiling guns along with it and saying weird things about Jesus, we need to line this. We need to know who we are in a matter-of-fact kind of way, in a demystified kind of way. We need to know who we are so that we can just be who we really are. These magnificent creation machines, these, not just creation machines, we are being specifically designed to create that which is not in existence yet and bring it into existence. We are dream creators or nightmare creators, depending on when we don't understand who we are and we're focused in the wrong direction, then we make all of our nightmares come true. And we're kind of in the middle of that. So somebody genetically modified us, but they didn't leave us with a user's manual. This is how it works, people. So this is how it works. I'm going to tell you again, this is your emotional guidance system. This is your inner being trying to tell your smaller self, come this way, come this way, come this way. So what is your singular work? Take care of your feelings. Know that your feelings matter. Know that you matter. And you feeling love, feeling good, feeling hope, feeling better frequencies, higher vibrations matters to the whole, matters to me, matters to us. You feeling good matters to us. So actually, if you look in general at the way we've been handling each other over time, a lot of it's not so good, us trying to beat and punish each other into submission, into conformity, into I don't know. We shouldn't be doing that. We shouldn't be doing that. We should be soothing and loving and encouraging each other, each to their own unique and individual iteration of the allness. That's what we should be doing instead of trying to bludgeon each other into lockstep and groupthink. We should not be doing that. Our vortex of creation at the end of this is not going to look like us all being conformity. It's going to be spirit-based infinite diversity. That's what it's going to look like. That's what a healthy planet, that's what a healthy ecosystem, that's what a healthy humanity looks like. So, anyway, let's see what else I need to cover before I'm done for the day, because I'm coming close to that 1.5 hour mark. I need to make this last at least 1.5 hours. I don't know how short I can make this presentation and really cover everything I want to cover. Uh, there's another representation of this emotional guidance scale, how this works. These are different people that have taken Abraham's emotional guidance scale and turned it into... I should have put something on here where you can go find what these people have done. I think they're selling this as a downloadable item. Here we go. We're back to the aperture. 4 general states of being. I guess I have one more general... Oh, that's the wrong one. I want to do this one first. There's one more general concept that I want to pull into this picture. Oh, by the way, go watch a movie called The Lost Century and How to Reclaim It. I bought my copy on Amazon, but it's available on lots and lots of platforms. Just go buy it somewhere and watch that. And you will get a sense of what has been stolen from us. But, stolen from us by some of us. And we are still all one. And we just need to get on the bandwagon. We don't need to beat up those responsible. Okay? Because there is no us and them. There is only us. And we need to soothe each other into better behavior and higher frequencies. We do not need to beat each other. And it's sort of the old, the beatings will continue until morale improves. Well, you know that beating never, ever improves morale. That's kind of the position that we're in. But we're in a kind of a tough position because there's lots and lots of people acting up all over the place. There's all kinds of little vortices of chaos erupting everywhere, in little ways and in big ways. Wars trying to get going, neighbors clashing with one another, internal civil unrest within the geopolitical framework of the United States electoral system. There's a big argument going. It's like, wow, don't get me started on that one. I could probably talk for a long time about that. And at some point, maybe I should, because we're in an election year. And there is very much an authoritarian wannabe knocking at the door of democracy. And it may or may not make it. And it all depends on where we are in our chaotic disruption. If there's enough of the disenfranchised, if there's enough of that grumbling, disquieted, aggrieved, belligerent energy out there to be unified, then it could happen. But it's not Trump's fault, and it's not Trump's followers' fault. It's our fault. We don't know who we are. That's what it is. And generally, when more and more and more of us start figuring this out, they will start operating from within their own system correctly, taking cues properly from their broader perspective, and the ship will start turning around. So here, this is a picture of cymatic patterns. And what a cymatic pattern is it's a study. It's a field of study that helps us understand the relationship between vibration and form. It was pioneered by a man named Hans Jenny, who would take, now these are digital cymatic patterns put through some sort of a digital device, and you put a different frequency in, and it produces a different image. Very cool. This is more like the work that he did. Look up here in the upper right and the lower left. You can see what it is it's a black metal plate is what that is, with some sort of granular medium on it. And then you pipe a frequency through the plate, and a pattern appears in the granular medium. Sand or salt, or it looks kind of like sand, something like that. The interesting thing about this is you can see as the frequencies change, the patterns change. As a matter of fact, as the frequencies get more and more higher and higher frequencies, the patterns become more and more complex. As the frequency rises, the pattern becomes more complex. And not only that, as you go from one frequency to another and the pattern shifts, there is a moment in between patterns where both patterns are kind of there and neither pattern is really there, and it kind of looks like a mess. It looks random, it looks chaotic. But it isn't really. It's just between patterns. And there is one pattern falling away and another pattern coming into being. And that is always happening. One pattern is falling away, another one's coming into being. And in human terms, that's absolutely very visibly, it's visible. You can see it happening. You can see old forms of doing business, things like the telephone book and even landlines in general. There's all kinds of things that we used to be forms that were very important to the structure of the system that we worked with that aren't anymore. And things that never were a thing before, like setting up an internet store, and you don't even have to have, it's not like the old way of doing business over the internet was you had to have a product and then you advertised it on the internet, and as people ordered it, then you had to go into your mail room and pack it up and send it to them. It's way not like that anymore. Somebody makes an order and then you tag someone probably in some other country with all the information they need to boom, 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 produce that product, and then they ship it out. Or maybe it's happening in whatever. It's like a really, really interesting model. Well, that didn't exist 10 years ago. Probably didn't exist 5 years ago very well. And so these new forms, they're coming into being, and old forms, the malls, the way malls are, they used to be hubs of massive transaction, and now, man, we went to our local mall, and at Christmas time, there was barely anybody there. There was a few days around Christmas where there was actually quite a few people there. There was nobody at that seeing Santa. It was so sad. But not really sad. The thing is the forms change. The forms change. We are the formless, giving rise to the form. And that form is always changing. That the rolling manifestation is always in flux. 100% of the time it is becoming, and begoing. When you identify with the form, you feel uncomfortable. When you identify with the formless, now you feel good in the world. Now the shifting of the forms around you doesn't knock you down, doesn't make you go, oh, that bad thing I see happening, that means all of creation sucks. No, it doesn't. It just means you're looking at it funny right now. Who am I? I am source energy. I am that vibrational continuum of data and information and flow with all the rest of it. That's who I really am. I am not my physical body, although I'm using my physical body in this physical life that I am creating right now. And that's important. That's important. Without that actually happening on the ground, then nothing's happening. You are an integral part of this total system that you are. You and your inner being walking hand in hand through your life. Learn how to lean on this inner being, how to follow its guidance, learn how to care about how you feel. Don't be willing to go down rat holes of negative thought and then act from them, because that's you in chaos. That's us in chaos. Please don't do that. Care how you feel. So, I'm almost ready to end. I'm going to bring up this. These are considered the 5 kleshas of Buddhist philosophy. I kind of have my own little version of them. I should actually write them down. But this is the the original five kleshas, not knowing what is real, grasping and clinging to the unreal, being afraid of the unreal and recoiling from it. So you have this thing you've sort of conjured. But I don't really like the way this is, because it implies that the world around you isn't real. And it is. The world around you is real. You're just probably not interpreting it quite in alignment. So that identifying with an imaginary self, I see that more as overly identifying with your conventional meat self and disregarding the fact that the most of who you are, the greater aspect of what you are, is this source energy vibrational self. Identify with that one. If you identify with that one, then everything else, then the world is a magnificent and wonderful place no matter what happens. Even if your sun's going nova, even if a volcano is getting ready to erupt, even if things are happening in your conditions around you that are probably not what your specific body being really wants to have happen. I don't want the volcano to erupt on my beautiful vacation village. I'm having fun snorkeling every day and, or whatever. But these things happening in the conditions don't throw you off your whole game. You aren't the physicality. You are that vibrational core source self that we all are. That eternal continuum of data and information, that flow, that's who you really are. And that can't be hurt by anything in physicality, by somebody. And not only that, there is no such thing as death, in a way. Now, in a way, yeah, you can see that person laid their physical body down and I can't play with their physical person anymore. And so how can you tell me there is no such thing as death? Well, in that sense there's death, and you can feel bad about that. But don't take it as any kind of existential thing. And not only that, don't spend too long there, because if you spend too much of your focus there, then you won't be able to actually plug back into their frequency, because their frequency is still broadcasting. It's still broadcasting, and they still have intention, they still have data and information flow. They know who you are. Just because they're out of their physical body does not mean that they don't know who and what. They're still there. All the frequencies are still there. They are still there. And they can continue to move into more form. But that doesn't mean that even when they move into a form somewhere, that doesn't mean their frequency is not still broadcasting across the whole thing. So, I lost a husband 30-some years ago. No, it's 20-some years ago. It's not to 30 yet, not till 2026. Seems like a long time. Anyway, I lost him a long time ago. And if he chooses to go into another physical body, there's just one of us here anyway. There is just one of us here. So he can go into a physical body and keep going with his evolution and still be on a frequency where I can reach him now, where he's in touch with what I'm doing and what he cares about, what me and the kids are doing. That's how it works. I guess I'm about it. Here's my last slide. Well, I have two last slides. This one is a quote from Franz Kafka. And I have another version of it where it actually says his name there, because I should have one that says his name. But I am telling you, this is a quote from Franz Kafka. Look up the Kafka and the doll story. It's a really short little thing. But it gives you a sense of how this universe is designed. Focus on the love. The forms are coming and going. The love never goes anywhere. The love is right here, right now, all the time. Focus there. Everything you love, you will eventually lose. But in the end, love will return in a different form. Love is always there. It's the forms. You got to get your eyes off the forms. Sometimes the forms take you to a place where you forget about the love. Excuse me. I'm having my morning frog. And it's just as well because I'm coming up on the end of this at last. I've done a fairly good job this morning. We're going to come back tomorrow. We're going to do the same thing. Who am I? Who am I? Who am I? Where did I come from? Where am I going? What's the meaning of my life? What's the meaning of my equipment? How does my equipment work? How does the quantum field work? How does my equipment relate to the quantum field? All of that. We're going to come back tomorrow and do it again. I love you all. Still don't have I need to think about this. As soon as I'm done with this, I'm going to come up with a new sign-off line, and I'm going to premiere it tomorrow. So, until tomorrow, I bid you peace.